Bap, bap.
All right. What's up, everybody? I am Hayden Garashunas here with my compadre, Andy Watkins.
Good evening.
We are trying out our hand at a podcast. We've already done our dry run, and it didn't suck as bad as we thought it would. So we figured, what the hell, why not give it a second shot? Andy, how you doing, buddy?
Just okay.
Just okay. I feel like I can look at your hat and maybe have an idea as of why, especially with something that recently happened. Yeah, something that recently happened. Oh, of course, the NFL's 100th season for sure.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, cool. So we got some good stuff to talk about. We decided that since we didn't suck super bad, we were going to give this thing a name. So we're going to reveal that in a second. We'll go through some stuff that happened in week 13 of the NFL season, which is currently still going on because it's 2020 and there's COVID, and that means that we get football every day. So if that's a positive that we get out of it, so be it. We will also talk about our top 5 head coach and quarterback combinations in the NFL right now as we see fit. We will talk a little bit about Darren Sproles and the absolute absurd amount of yards that he was able to gain throughout his career in the NFL. And then we'll play a little game at the end. Yep, for sure. Okay. Andy, recently upgraded or brought up from the COVID reserve list. Feeling okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm stupendous. I didn't have COVID. COVID had me. Don't trip.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. Glad you're feeling all right. Glad everything kind of worked out there. All right. You ready to reveal our name to the people, Andy?
Please, take it away.
Excellent. So the name of our podcast, we are the We Like Football podcast.
Yes,
short, sweet, and to the point, represents everything that we are going to talk about here, more or less. So we like football. If you like football, why not listen?
I mean, we could put like a subheading and also beer and pizza and crude humor and but I guess football is the best way to summarize it. So
there is certainly a plethora of topics that we will be covering here, not just football, but that will be sort of the primary base. Okay, so now we have a name. We know we like football. Let's talk about some football. To start off, we had recently talked about our top 10 receivers, or at least a top 10 receiver list that we had some discrepancies with. But a name that we both sort of agreed on being a beast is DK Metcalf. So DK Metcalf right now currently has 63 receptions for 1,119 yards, 9 touchdowns, which he is first in the league in receiving yards. Not too bad, Andy.
Oof.
Not too.
Yeah, you could say that. He's a monster. I see you have here a comparison between his stats and Megatron Calvin Johnson and DK.
It's really not even that close.
No, that's a few games production better. Probably that's 3 strong games better, like through the same amount of games, I would say.
Yep. So just to talk about the statistics that we are touching on right now, DK Metcalf through the first 28 games of his career, 121 receptions, 2,019 yards, 16 touchdowns. When you compare that to Megatron Calvin Johnson, at the same time, had 100 receptions for 1,728 yards and 11 touchdowns. Dude is an absolute baller.
Let me different perspective, because obviously we know what a monster Randy Moss was as a rookie. I think he had 17 touchdowns his first year. I just want to see how those stack up.
For sure. Yep. And I think that the Megatron comparison is more just their
sheer
ridiculous size and yeah.
Lamar Jackson scored a touchdown. Yeah, no, sheer size, speed, like DK Metcalf is incomparable. He's probably the most physically gifted specimen in the NFL. We talked about the Buda Baker play. There's instances of plays like there's other memorable like chase down plays, but it's Champ Bailey and Benjamin Watson or Leon Lett and Don Beebe. Like those, they're more memorable for like obviously the efforts there. But DK ran down an NFL DB who ran probably a 4.40 like effortlessly.
Yeah, you would think that a play like that is certainly going to kind of go up there on the Mount Rushmore of those chase down type plays. It's going to be one that people kind of talk about forever. I'm also a little bit delayed on the game. I'm watching it on my phone, so I do see that Lamar Jackson did just score We are recording this on Tuesday, December 8th. So we get Tuesday Night Football. That's why we're kind of back and forth between this podcast and, of course, the football game that is currently taking place between the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys. So just to kind of wrap up with DK Metcalf, last week, again, we talked about our top 10 receivers. I think for me, and the last couple of weeks just kind of solidified it, DK is closer to number 1 on the top 10 list than he is to number 10.
I was going to say, I would think top 5 right now. I can't think of 5 I would take over him in 2020.
Nope. And if you replaced any of those 5 with DK Metcalf, I can't imagine that you would be any sort of upset about it. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some of the games that occurred over the weekend here in Week 13. Start with the Jets kind of being the Jets. So the Raiders beat the Jets 31-28 on a last-second touchdown to Henry Ruggs. Did not watch a lot of that game, but I know a lot of the talk sort of around the media that at least I've been consuming is about that last play, just to sort of paint the picture before we get into it. The last play of the game, or one of the last plays of the game on the last second touchdown, it was an obvious Hail Mary type of situation. The Jets opted to blitz 7 and spy 1, which ended up turning into blitzing 8. And essentially playing cover 0 behind it, one-on-one, man-to-man without any sort of safety help. Lamar Jackson, not the one who just scored the touchdown, but the corner for the Jets, gets burnt on a double move by Henry Ruggs, which was a fantastic move, by the way. So let's kind of talk about that play. Was it a terrible play call, or was it better execution on the Raiders' part?
If you're tanking, it's an excellent play call. What do we know about Lamar Jackson? To be honest, that's the first I've heard his name. Lamar Jackson of the Jets. Just hold on a moment, because I'm curious.
I had to Google him before as well. I was
undrafted this year.
Who that is. Yep.
Undrafted this year. You're leaving him exposed against a 4-3 guy. He did get worked. It's the effort was there. I just watched it because it was obviously I saw the highlights, but I didn't really watch the play that closely. I just watched it now, and yeah, they left him out on an island to die. I think the thought process was, let's either win with a highlight or give him the easy tutty and continue the tank.
Yep. So I could agree with that, and you would think that there would be some sort of safety help, which would obviously not allow you to rush 8 if that was sort of your idea and what you were going for there. Again, just fantastic route by Henry Ruggs, kind of a double move, kind of like stem to the inside real quick and broke back out. Not necessarily a post corner, but something sort of similar, and just beat
like an in and up.
Yeah, and just beat Lamar Jackson with pure speed. Another thing that I was really impressed with the blitz pickup. Yes, it is an NFL offensive line, and one that's pretty good, right? A really decent offensive line.
Yeah, Rodney Hudson, good line, yeah.
Yep, and the back pickup, a blitzer as well. It really was a solid blitz pickup.
Well done by Derek Carr to step up in the pocket and deliver a perfect ball, really.
Oh, it was a hell of a throw. It was a hell of a throw for sure. So for me, a lot of the things that I've been seeing with social media is people kind of getting on that play call from the Jets. And obviously, Greg Williams got the axe this week. I mean, there's a plethora of reasons, but that last play certainly didn't help. For me, I don't necessarily hate the play call in the situation. I'm not advocating for it to happen all the time, but if we think about the circumstance that the Jets are in, you're 0-11, right? You have an opportunity to beat a formidable Raiders team, right? And we've seen with, the Nuke Hopkins against Seattle, the Dick Rod against Seattle that was meaningless and just kind of broke the hearts of anybody who bet on the Eagles-Seahawks game. But we've seen Hail Mary attempts that get batted around, or somebody just goes up and takes the fucking ball away, right? To where you're not necessarily leaving it up to chance. And I know I'm speaking about this kind of hypothetically and in a what if kind of sense, even though we know what happened. The Raiders scored, the Jets lost. History was kind of written there. But if that blitz hits home, right, nobody's talking about this. If that blitz gets home, right, everybody's saying, "Oh wow, that was a ballsy play call." Right, you took a shot. You're 0-11. You have nothing to lose. Right, you got home. It worked. Obviously, that wasn't the case, but that's kind of where my head is at with that.
I get it. I mean, it's hard to knock the aggressiveness too much, given the circumstances. We're at, my team currently 11-1. Thanks, Washington.
We'll get there.
In that same circumstance, I would be livid. I don't know how you could. Looking at the circumstances of the game, let's see before he snaps it. 13 seconds left. They need a touchdown. I'm not saying you play a, straight up
like a
cover
prevent
4
style defense.
Like prevent your Hail Mary, whatever you want to call it. But I think you play more coverage than that. The Jets haven't been able to manufacture pressure all year. They don't have the guys for it. That's why they brought so much heat, I guess. But yeah, you mentioned the Nuke Hopkins or Dick Rod. I didn't know that was a nickname. I like that.
Absolutely. Dick Rod, Richard Rodgers, the tight end for the Eagles, one of 3.
Right, but that's 2 you plucked out of how many instances? I don't hate the aggressiveness because I root for a team that lives and dies by the blitz, so I respect it in a sense. But no, it wasn't the right call.
Yeah, apparently
if you're playing to win the game, it was not the right call.
Yeah, apparently it was, and it didn't work. Right, Jets fall to 0-12. Like I mentioned, Greg Williams gets fired this week. One would assume that the Jets will be clearing house in a couple weeks and preparing to take Trevor Lawrence, presumably at number 1 after the quote unquote tank is complete. I'll never believe that an NFL team is actually tanking and actually trying to lose, but
this is as close as I've been to convinced. They traded like what few assets they had. Michael Gallup with the score.
All right. So what's that? 10-7, 7-7.
There's a flag. If it. Oh, sorry. Did I spoil it?
You did. That's okay. I'm a couple seconds behind, but
might be.
That's okay.
Yeah, if ever there was a tank, I would say this is probably it. I'm sure there's been a few recent instances. I don't think any team is actively trying to go winless because, boy, that's a blemish on your. You're like, think of the teams, the Lions and the Browns. The Jets are very much in that collection of doldrum, downtrodden franchises. So it would be fitting if they do complete the imperfect season.
Yeah, kind of wrap it all up, put a bow on it, and see what we can do with Trevor Lawrence next year. Okay, so moving on from the Raiders-Jets game this weekend. Last night, Josh Allen kind of put on a clinic, had 32 completions for 375 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the picture's a little small for me here. I think that says 139.1 passer rating. So I guess it's time to talk about, is Josh Allen legit?
I'd say so. I get where, because this first year or two, his accuracy was maddening. It was never a question of arm strength, but there would be a lot of balls in the dirt that would, like wide open receivers. But they've improved the weaponry around him, and I think he's made considerable progress. You got to remember, he was coming out of Wyoming. It's not like he was playing the cream of the crop in college football. There is an adjustment period. Is he elite or anything? MVP caliber? No, I don't think so. But I would say he's just I'd put him in the same tier as, say, Big Ben right now. Even a Matt Ryan. I think there's a clear hierarchy. Mahomes, Russell Wilson, for me, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray,
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, Rodgers, of course. But I think Allen has solidified himself as somebody in that next tier.
In that tier too. I was thinking the same thing. I think that his ceiling might have that top tier kind of talent. It just hasn't gotten there yet. But I mean, the dude is playing pretty well. He's got his team to 9-3 after the victory against the 49ers, 34-24 last night on Monday Night Football. Just kind of going through his stats from this year. He has 3,028 yards, which is currently 12th in the NFL, 22 touchdowns, which is tied for 10th, 8 interceptions, which is tied for 15th, and a 75 on the dot QBR, which is 6th in the NFL. So certainly doing some things to at least be in the top half.
Let's not forget his rushing numbers. 320 yards on the ground and an additional 6 scores. And that's consistent throughout his career. He's got 1,400 yards on the ground and 23 touchdowns. He's just as much a dual threat as a Lamar, a Kyler, a Deshaun. Big, thick, athletic kid. Got everything you want in a quarterback prospect. That's obviously why they selected him when they did. Just looking at his numbers, his completion percentage has skyrocketed this year. And again, I say they got, some weaponry around him. Stephon Diggs, humongous.
Cole Beasley as well, yep.
Cole Beasley's been a monster all year long. But, Josh Allen's completed nearly 70% of his passes. And it's not at 8 yards an attempt. It's not like they don't stretch the field.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you mentioned can do some stuff with his legs as well. Elusive in the pocket. Has been compared, at least last night on the broadcast, was compared to, a young Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair comparison. I would say Josh Allen is a better athlete. But in terms of running around, making plays, and just being able to uncork a laser 50 yards down the field, he's definitely like a rare breed in that regard.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I remember a player that was compared to a young Ben Roethlisberger that happened just 3 years ago, and I actually watched his highlights last night to make me feel a little bit better about myself. And we'll get there in a couple minutes here, but we got a couple more things, or at least one more thing, and I know it's going to hurt your heart a little bit to talk about from this week. We went into the Week 13 season with one undefeated team. We are leaving the Week 13 in the NFL season without an undefeated team. The Washington football team beat Pittsburgh last night 23-17. So I'll get your initial thoughts kind of first, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Fucking sucks. Sorry. Was I supposed to elaborate?
You can. I mean, I think that's a fair explanation, but if there was a little bit more that you could provide, that'd be okay.
All right. I don't know how bent out of shape I could be, because any other, if presented in August with, the Steelers will be 11-1 come December 8th, I'd say, stupendous. That's lovely. Thank you. It sucks because I was 11-0. You're in rare company. It's you have a legitimate shot at that point. It's not 4-0. It's not 5-0. It's double-digit wins without a loss, without a blemish. It's I started to get a little hopeful, but it's Pittsburgh's banged up. They had James Conner and Pouncey on the COVID list. Bud Dupree's obviously out for the year. Devin Bush. They lost Robert Spillane, Joe Hayden in game, and I think you could see the fatigue setting in the last several weeks. I'm not panicking, but it is concerning because their run game has been extremely lackluster for a month. Connor is sorely needed. Pouncey's sorely needed. They're still manufacturing pressure on defense. They're still making big plays, but I am worried that the depth has taken a lot of hits in the front seven, and I think that was evident yesterday. They had 3 sacks, but I don't think the pressure generated was the same. I think they were noticeably blitzing a little more. Alex Highsmith wasn't getting the same push that Bud Dupree gets. He wasn't setting the same edge. Offensively, they shot themselves in the foot over and over again. They dropped so many balls. They had I think 1st and goal inside the 1 yard line, got stuffed over and over. Then eschewed the field goal and got stuffed again. There's no such thing as a pretty loss. I mean, a loss is a loss. That's one of them. I hope they're not getting fatigued and they didn't get worn out on this stretch.
Yeah, by the time we get here. So obviously, to go 3 months without a loss, there's something to be said there, and it's a pretty good run. obviously it came to the end, and a lot of what I'm seeing, just I guess on social media amongst fans, which this is always a fun thing to kind of watch about. Oh, they don't even have a name. The Steelers lost to a team without a name. It's important to remember that the logos that go on your helmet don't play each other. Like there are matchups within the game, right, that have impacts on it. The logos are not an impact. The Washington football team doesn't need a name to still go out and have all first rounders on their defensive line, or to go out and be able to go ahead.
They're not a bad group at all. Their record kind of belies that at 5-7, but I think Alex Smith has won his last 3 starts. Like they've turned a corner. I don't think they're not a contender by any means, but they're no slouch. I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised that this is the team Pittsburgh ultimately lost to. I'm not surprised that they gave him a game. Any team can give any team a game, and Washington, as you said, is loaded with talent in the front 7. Alex Smith, competent veteran quarterback. They're not devoid of weaponry. Terry McLaurin, nice player. Logan Thomas made a lot of plays yesterday. It was frustrating, but again, that's you talk about it. They made the plays they had to. Cameron Sims, whoever that is, I wasn't familiar with him at all, but he made that tremendous one-hand grab. Sometimes the other team is better. Is Pittsburgh better most of the time? Yeah, they beat Washington 90 out of 100 times if they rematched over and over, but yesterday Washington was better.
Yep, that's why they play single games and not series. That's why the games are played every week and not just saying, oh, well, your team is better than this team, so here, you won automatically. No, you still have to go out and play those games, and there is ultimately a winner and a loser. We talked a little bit about the Washington football team's defensive line. Montez Sweat currently has 17 tackles, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. Chase Young, who is just a dude, that dude is going to wreak havoc in the NFC East for a while, and as an Eagles fan, I'm not super looking forward to it. He has 22 tackles this year, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Deron Payne, 16 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles. Jonathan Allen has 25 tackles, 2 sacks as well. And you brought up another player as well.
Tim Settle, Virginia Tech, third-year guy, has 5 sacks this year. So you have 13.5 between those 4. Tack another 5 on. I'm sure Ryan Kerrigan has a few, right?
Yep, these were just the front 4 that I took earlier. I mean, there are so many weapons on that defensive line.
Montez Sweat imposed his will last night.
Loaded, yeah.
I thought Pittsburgh got the ball big. Yeah, Kerrigan another 5.5 between him and Settle. Tack 10 more on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Steelers got the ball back. He always Big Ben, veteran quarterback's done it dozens of times. You just kind of expect them to go down, win the ball game, and then very first play, boy, is that deflating. But Montez Sweat is a force. He's long, athletic. He gets his hands in the throwing lane so often.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you put him on the same line with Chase Young, and it's man.
I'm just looking at your comments here. I'm gonna steal the segue because boy, I'm pissed about it.
All-time savvy move, buddy. Go for it.
Come on. God, that was freaking brilliant. I hated it. Oh, it was so smart.
So just to kind of paint the picture, time is running out. The clock is still moving at the end of the half. Alex Smith, I believe he got sacked, correct? Alex Smith gets sacked, or he brought down in bounds. I don't remember the exact play. But rather than tossing the ball to the referee and running off the field so that the field goal team can come on and try to get set up, there really wasn't a lot of time. It looked like it was going to be one of those like photo finishes that maybe they wouldn't have gotten the.
I thought they would have even got it off. They reset it to the time that they had left when the play was stopped, which was 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm. So after Alex Smith runs off with the ball, the referees stopped the clock because there was a problem getting the K ball or the kicking ball in to get it spotted. They said that was need to stop the clock, and then the clock would, of course, wind on the referees ready. In my opinion, an all-time savvy move. Alex Smith knew exactly what the fuck he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd love to hear from your perspective.
I hadn't seen that before. That's brilliant. I really hope that Ben Roethlisberger put that one in his back pocket. I can't get too up in arms because just a week prior, the Steelers stopped the Ravens on the goal line. And then, boy, did they take their sweet time getting up. They burned 20 seconds getting out of the pile. It's gamesmanship. It was well done. I don't know who told him to do that or if that was his own. I don't think I've seen that before. It was
Yeah. So the
cunning as
reason
hell. I would call it cunning. It was
that's
sly.
that's a solid word, and I agree. Again, I thought savvy was one of those, but maybe it's not as negative of a connotation as we might want to use. As somebody like a quarterback, you have to understand situations in the game. Like if you're on a drive right at the end of the game and you don't have any timeouts, you understand how the ball is spotted. You understand where the referees need to be before you can snap the ball. You understand that if you sub somebody out on offense, you have to give the defense time to sub out. There's little things that you kind of have to understand in order to manage a game like that. I think that Alex Smith absolutely understood that they needed to spot the football. And if he gave the referees the football as soon as he got up, like he normally would under any other circumstance, they would have spotted the ball, and the Washington football team might not have been able to kick that field goal. Rather, he carried it off the field with him, did not give the referees an opportunity to spot the ball on time. They subsequently stopped the clock, and the football team got 3 points that they might not have gotten prior to the end of the half.
Which again stunk. That's really all there can be said about it. Smart. I imagine we'll see that again sooner than later. Next on the agenda here is Pittsburgh.
So we do have maybe just two more things before we get going, because I do want to talk about if there's or what the reasons for optimism for Pittsburgh moving forward are. But you touched on the run game kind of being certainly an issue. Last night they rushed for 21 yards, and you also talked about the drops. Last night there was 7 drops from eligible receivers. I love the attempt at a big guy touchdown there. Leak that dude out. That is one of my favorite things in football, is when fat guys get to score touchdowns. It really warms my heart. So the cause for concern with the run game, do you think that that's just because of James Conner being out? Is there other factors that kind of play into it?
They've never been, well, this year I should say, they haven't been a great rushing team. They've been better with Conner. They've been competent at times. They've been lousy at times. They've largely been lousy for the last month now. Conner's been in and out. They've had injuries along the O-line. If they can get healthy offensively, they can muster a reasonable running game. They don't need great, but they need 100 yards on the ground a game to keep defenses honest, because, again, we talked about the drops. They're hearing footsteps because they're being played closer and closer. Teams are starting to figure out that Pittsburgh just runs a lot of short passing. And they have guys for it, but not when they can crowd the line of scrimmage like that, because there's no fear of any. Oh, sorry. Looks like Ravens got another one on the board. I don't know who that is. Miles Boykin.
Okay. I'm just seeing the pick now, but yep. That's right. A couple seconds behind.
Yeah, it does look like defenses are starting to figure out how to clamp down on their passing game without the threat of a running game to kind of keep them honest. I think they can, you can scheme a bit, but some of it's talent. They don't have a road grading O-line. Without Conner, they don't have a number one back. They need the defense to make plays, and they need the defense to make stops. They need to attempt to throw the ball down the field, because the short passing game, regardless of how good your perimeter guys are, can only do so much when they're clamping down on them like they were yesterday. And the week prior, Baltimore kind of, last 2 weeks, I think Pittsburgh scored 17. Prior to that, they had 24 plus in every game.
Yeah, and you do need to be able to stretch the field vertically. I also heard something on the broadcast last night that I did not necessarily agree with. I kind of got the sentiment, but they talked about how you need to be able to run the football at the goal line. And while, yeah, that would be nice, if you're not able to run the ball in between the 20s, are you just magically going to, turn into this road grading run team when everybody is literally in the box and trying to stop your run? That didn't make much sense to me.
No, it has to be a facet of your offense from the 1 to the 1, really. Again, you need a semblance of a running game. You don't need a great one, but to be the best teams will have a competent running game.
Yep, and that kind of played into the hands of that vicious defensive line, like we talked about, when you could just kind of pin your ears back and that it's it's a pass. You kind of know what's coming, right? You can kind of pin your ears back and just get after the quarterback a little bit. So we've been negative for long enough. Let's talk about some reasons to be optimistic. Yikes, optimistic moving forward for Pittsburgh.
There's still a quarterback having a tremendous year. To hell with Alex Smith. Big Ben still the comeback player of the year. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards, 35 scores, and 10 picks or so. They have drops notwithstanding. They got a great group of skill players between James Washington, Claypool, Johnson, Juju, and even Ebron, though he's been maddening with the drops. When he catches the ball, he can be electric. Still very good pass protecting O-line. We talked about how good Washington's front seven is. They did keep Big Ben upright last night, even if they couldn't get any push in the ground game. Defensively, as I said, they're getting banged up, but far from devoid of talent. Tyson Alualu, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt is probably the best D-line in football still. TJ Watt is Defensive Player of the Year. They got playmakers in the secondary and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden. He's on the concussion protocol right now, but that should be, one would think, a game or two at most. They're not devoid of talent. They're still the team that won 11 games prior to last night. There's no reason to panic just yet. There's some things to get figured out, but I'm confident they'll figure them out. We haven't heard the last of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, certainly not the end of the road, and they have a tough task with Buffalo this week. Of course, Buffalo coming off that win last night, so we'll see if they can sort of pick it back up, kind of get back on track, and get ahead of steam moving forward as we reach closer towards the playoffs in 2020, for sure. Okay, so let's see. Like I mentioned, we are recording this podcast on Tuesday, December 8th. Which means that 2 years and 364 days ago, I got married, which was a lovely time. You were there. Yep, for sure. Yep. So tomorrow, will be my third wedding anniversary. And yeah,
congratulations, Cal.
Lovely. And even maybe more notably for the podcast, since it is Tuesday, December 8th, that means that 2 years and 363 days ago, just making sure my math is correct, it's not like I teach it or anything, is the day that I got to sit in a bar in Harrisburg and watch Carson Wentz tear his ACL against the LA Rams. The Eagles eventually went on to win that game. I'm not sure if you've ever talked to an Eagles fan before, but they actually won the Super Bowl that year. It was really, really cool. So they did. So I'm trying to be happy. They played the Patriots. It was really good. There was a duel.
Brady and the Patriots?
Like Tom Brady and the Patriots. And there was this duel between like Tom Brady and the backup guy that has a statue outside of Philly now. And okay, I guess there's no beating around the bush. So there is a turmoil in Philadelphia. Everything just seems to be falling apart. Again, this is coming from an Eagles fan, so I'm going to remain as objective as possible, but you'll probably hear the pain kind of just resonating through my voice here. So in the third quarter against the Packers, Carson Wentz was 6 for 15 with 79 yards. He ends up getting benched, and they bring in Jalen Hurts, their second round pick this year in the draft out of Alabama and Oklahoma. Of course, famously benched in the national title game when Tua Tagovailoa comes in and wins in the second half. Jalen Hurts then kind of sits on the bench the whole next year until the SEC championship game comes in and wins the SEC championship game. Obviously, transfers to Oklahoma, did pretty well there. Jalen Hurts comes off the bench, goes 5 for 12 with 109 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. Also ran 5 times for 29 yards. So the Band-Aid was finally ripped off. It might be kind of long overdue. I'm interested to get your perspective before I kind of dive into mine a little bit. So what do you make of the benching? What are your thoughts on it? And then we'll kind of go from there.
It's sad the way Eagles fans, at least a large portion of them, tear down Carson Wentz. I was actually talking with a guy at the gym about this today. I remember how good he was when he was good. It's sad to see what's become of him. I think he's gun shy, shell shocked, if you will. He's offense has been devoid of weapons for years. A couple good tight ends isn't going to get you through in today's NFL. You need guys that can make plays down the field. They haven't had that. They haven't had anyone to protect him. And again, he's already injury prone. You know that. You're willing to invest, second overall pick in him?
Second round pick, yeah. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts. Yes,
overall?
yes. Second overall in 2016. Yes, excuse me.
They failed him. They had to try harder to put some semblance of an offense around him. They did not do it. I think he can return to being a competent starting quarterback. I think the MVP caliber player we saw once upon a time is gone, never to return. It's been too long. He's been too underwhelming.
Yep, all of these are true, and even last year that would have hurt me to my core, but I've kind of accepted what you're saying as well. And I like that you brought up that the Eagles organization failed him. So you talk about a guy that's just really been raked over the coals. Nick Foles comes in, obviously, and wins the Super Bowl in 2017. Nick Foles comes in and saves the 2018 season as well. They finally kind of get rid of like the Nick Foles experience to now where Carson's just the guy in your locker room. Like good, bad, indifferent, Carson is just your guy. He's no longer looking over his shoulder. I know he, quote unquote, doesn't pay attention to the media, but he doesn't have to hear about quarterback controversy or anything. And then you go and take Jalen Hurts in the second round, which to me at the time was wild. It still is wild. I think that if Jalen Hurts hadn't been taken in the second round, I don't know if Carson Wentz would have played better because I don't know how much it impacts him and how much psychologically that he is thinking about, with the fan base kind of talking about him getting benched or is there a quarterback controversy or whatever. But regardless, he would still be the quarterback. And at that point, you don't necessarily have the freedom to be like, oh, well, we could just take him out and we'll put in what are you gonna put in Nate Sudfeld? No, you're not gonna fucking put in Nate Sudfeld. You're gonna ride it out with Carson. You're gonna change some things about your offense so that you can tailor it more towards what Carson can do. Even I know, again, I'm not absolving Carson of his poor play, and I'll get into his stats in a second. But when you made that move for Jalen Hurts, it kind of just threw anything that might have been normal and might have been the idea that Carson's our guy moving forward, you threw it out the window.
I can respect the need for good backup quarterback, but I think you could send a different message, even bring in competition and send a different message. Cam Newton was available for cheap. Another like Carson Wentz, strong arm, big athletic guy who's maybe seen better days. But I think they could have got him. They could have got a veteran backup, and it would send a different message. And then they could have used that draft pick to try to bolster the receiving core, the O-line, what have you. I get the need to have a competent backup quarterback, like you said, Nate Sudfeld. So I think they could have brought in competition, but done so in a different way.
And I know that you're the quarterback factory, and you just develop quarterbacks, which no, you fucking don't. No, you don't. Nate Sudfeld hasn't been developed. Carson Wentz obviously hasn't been developed to his full potential. He kind of hit his ceiling and then fell, whether that's on injuries or other factors. You can't claim to be a quarterback factory if you have nothing to back it up. And I think that as an Eagles fan, what the move did with taking Carson out and putting in Jalen Hurts is that you almost like admitted defeat for the rest of the year. And I know that it looks like a move where, they're still in the NFC East. They can still kind of make a push if Jalen Hurts comes in and plays super well, which isn't going to happen, but that's sort of been the narrative. But now everything that you are going to hear about the Philadelphia Eagles, even though it kind of has been before, but now you just open the floodgates to, it's not about the football anymore. You can do as much good or bad on the field as you want. It's now just going to be about Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. There's not going to be anything else. So that was sort of discouraging. And I think that if Jalen Hurts comes in and plays well, now let's say, and I don't think this is going to happen. There's so many holes on that offense that I don't see this happening. But Jalen Hurts comes in and he goes and he wins 4 straight. Right. Again, it's not going to happen. They have the Saints, the Cardinals, the Washington football team, and the Dallas Cowboys at the end of their schedule. The buzzsaw in the middle for the Eagles was absurd, with also the Packers and the Seahawks in there, and the Browns,
Steelers.
And the Steelers as well. That kind of came in the beginning half of the season at least, but yes, like, you know, it hasn't been easy. That the schedule wasn't great. But so moving forward, obviously Jalen Hurts was just named the starter for this week. They announced it today. So we will see Jalen Hurts come out and, oh yeah, I'm sure he's going to do great against one of the best defenses in the league in the New Orleans Saints. So let's put our rookie out there. And, oh, well, we have a whole week to game plan just for Jalen Hurts if I'm Doug Peterson, because we've done such a great job of putting together a competent offense and putting it out on the field that we're obviously going to figure this whole thing out in a week before we roll this rookie out against the Saints. So moving forward, does Carson Wentz get traded? So I've seen a lot of the kind of talk about Carson Wentz going to the Colts. That was actually my prediction as well earlier in the season when Carson was struggling, just thinking about what they could do with him and how he is, or where he's going to end up moving forward. So is it a possibility for Carson Wentz to get traded this offseason?
I think it's a possibility he gets traded. I think it's a possibility he gets released. They'll try to recoup some kind of asset for him. With his contract, Indy is one, they do have cap space if they can maneuver Phillip Rivers or get out from under either his or even Jacoby Brissett's contract. I know they had a pretty sizable chunk, so I could see where Indy would make sense. I don't think any team trading for Wentz is going to give a boatload in the way of capital, given what they have to pay for him. But I would certainly say it's a realistic possibility if the compensation is right for the team making the trade, more so than the Eagles.
Oh, absolutely. The Eagles are not in an advantageous position with trying to be on the shipping Carson thing out. I don't think that he gets released only because of the dead money and the cap hit that you're going to take. I feel like you would just keep him at that point. The trade value, I'm not totally sure, and it would be totally dependent on other teams' situations and what they have to give up, and what they're willing to kind of pay and their cap space and all that. There's a lot of circumstances and factors that sort of go into it. It would absolutely suck if you have your $100 million quarterback as your backup. If Jalen Hurts, of course, does go out and play super well. I'm not really confident that he's going to, just because he is a rookie. We really aren't totally sure. He's made some nice plays when he's been in, but to go in and be the guy, which he's only done for a quarter and a half so far this year, right? To go in and be the guy, I'm not sure how well that'll go for him. Assuming that other moves kind of happen in Philadelphia, just to sort of wrap this up as far as who is going to get fired, because it's very rare that you could go through a slump like this and you could have a season like this where changes don't happen. Obviously, you're seeing it at the quarterback position right now, but over the offseason, there's sort of this trifecta of Howie Roseman, the general manager, Doug Peterson, the head coach, obviously, and then Carson Wentz, the current backup quarterback. So thinking about who is going to lose their job, who is going to be in a different uniform or a different color next year. Any thoughts on that?
I think Peterson may well have worn his welcome, and I think there seems to be some palpable discontent. I don't know that he wants to be there any longer. I think he would be my favorite candidate for either a termination or a mutual parting of ways,
which both have the same effect. So, it's just how you word them. Unfortunately, I feel like Doug Peterson is going to be the scapegoat here. I don't think that Doug Peterson is a bad head coach, but I think that he is a good coach who needs coordinators. And that was really apparent in 2017 when he had Frank Reich as his offensive coordinator. Dude's still calling the plays, but it's a little bit different when you have an actual offensive mind that's not like Press Taylor or Deuce Staley, that can kind of form your offense or at least collaborate with you on on the offense and put something together for the skill sets that you have in your locker room. Unfortunately, I think that Jalen Hurts cannot save Doug Peterson's job. I don't think that he's going to play well enough to save Doug Peterson's job, but I do think that if he plays well, he will save Howie Roseman's job, and that's something that's going to pain me to my core because I wanted Howie Roseman fired yesterday. I really hate calling for dudes' jobs because I get that there is a person behind the name. Like, it's not just, you're not just the general manager of the Eagles. You have a family and things like that, but the misses that he's had and the attempts to kind of look like the smartest guy in the room, like taking JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, taking Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. I mean, the list goes on and on. He's had one Pro Bowl draft pick since, like, I don't know, 2013, 2014. Oof. And that was Carson Wentz. So he hasn't done super well in the draft. I know that he kind of had that magical offseason going into 2017, but after that, his moves have sucked. Nickel Roby-Coleman is not anything great for this year. Javon Hargrave is coming along. He had a pretty nice game this week.
Pop up a few times. I wasn't aware of that level of incompetency in regards to their drafting personnel. I doesn't necessarily need to have to pour over numbers to just notice that they're not as like they outplayed their talent level at times over the last several years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there are position groups where it's evident that they're devoid of talent and have been for a while. I know receivers, linebackers have been for years. Yeah, I guess that would be the best way to summarize it. Is it sounds more like a nice reflection on Peterson because it's been overachieving prior to now.
Mm-hmm. And they have also done Doug so dirty this offseason, getting rid of several coaches on the staff and replacing them, but not having Doug actually pick them. Mm-hmm. Telling Deuce Staley, hey, buddy, for offensive coordinator, nobody's better than you. No, I mean, literally no one is better than you. We're not going to name anybody offensive coordinator like you're going to say as the running back coach. And we're just not going to hire an offensive coordinator. And it's not like Howie's super good on the books as well. You got $30 million sunk into Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey. I can't believe I still have to watch Alshon Jeffrey play football in an Eagles uniform. It's absolutely wild. Obviously, Carson Wentz with his extension making $100 million on the bench. Oh, and then something that's really like slid under the radar that I didn't even realize until this year, but Jake Elliott is on a 5-year, $20 million contract. So when your kicker's making $4 million a year and misses extra points consistently, you miss there too. It's not good. Philadelphia's broken. The Eagles quarterback situation doesn't help their cause at all there. I think I've said most of the things that I yell in my car on most days. So that's all I got. If you have anything else, if not, we'll just segue to something that's more fun because this fucking sucks.
I feel less bad about the Washington football team. I think we'll just pivot right along for everyone's well-being.
Thank God. We did have the head coach and quarterback combinations on here for our top 5. I think we're going to save that for the next one unless you want to do it now, but I know we went a little bit long on that first part there.
You know what? Actually, let's skip number 3.
Let's skip.
We'll come back to that.
So we'll come back. We had teased a little bit that we would talk about Darren Sproles. We'll talk about him a little bit more. But yeah, I agree. I think that the head coach quarterback combination could be a little bit more fun to talk about. So do you have your top 5 kind of list or the idea in your head and ready to talk about them? I figure if like you make your list, I'll say my list, and then we can kind of compare them and talk about specifics as we go on there if that's okay for you.
I don't think this is one that, to me, and you have the same top 4, so I think we're pretty much in agreement. I think the only question is who the number 5 spot is.
Okay, so for the top 5, I totally cheated. So just so you know, on that document, I had them in no necessarily particular order. The top is the top, and I think we would agree on the top there. But you're right, 5 was kind of hard. My top 5 turned into a top 8. Using letters as somebody who teaches pre-algebra, that's something that I'm used to in with mixing numbers and letters. So I think that for our top 3, we would probably say
That's pretty much
Mahomes.
ironclad.
Yeah, Mahomes and Reed would be the obvious, I think, number 1.
Yes.
Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll at number 2, even though I know they lost to the football giants, maybe like taking kind of recency bias out of it, just thinking of it from like a holistic sense.
Yeah.
So for 3 and 4, and this is why I had the top 8. So I had Mahomes and Reed at number 1, and then 2 was Wilson and Carroll. 2A was Breeze and Peyton, and 2B was Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. I think that at that 2 spot, they're all kind of interchangeable. I mean, they all of those quarterbacks are gonna go in the Hall of Fame at some point. All of those coaches obviously have been around forever and have been doing their thing. So I think that they're kind of set, like kind of, pick your poison.
Have comparable levels of success too.
As far as like championships and wins and
statistically, everybody's pretty much top 10, or Russell Wilson's very much trending there.
Mm-hmm.
All those coaches are in the same tier as far as total wins. There's no. Each of them has 1 Super Bowl. In fact, they're all kind of right there with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just to kind of go through some of their stats before we dive into the stuff that's a little bit trickier, because outside of that top 4 for me, top 2-ish, there is some wiggle room where you can kind of think about other things. So for the statistics for Andy Reid, career-wise, 218 wins, 129 losses. I was so happy when he finally got his Super Bowl this year. I mean, if there's a dude that deserved it, like it's that guy. Even as an Eagles fan, I know that a lot of Eagles fans hated him because he was supposed to be an Eagle forever. But since you're not here anymore, fuck you. Like you didn't care about us. You never loved us, like the ex-girlfriend kind of thing. That's not the way I feel about Andy Reid. I think he's a hell of a football coach. One of the best in the NFL for sure. Patrick Mahomes, talk about dudes who are going to wear gold jackets. I know that there's a lot of times when it's like too early to tell or he still needs to prove himself. Patrick Mahomes is a freaking Hall of Famer, dude.
Right now.
Patrick Mahomes could retire today and walk into the Hall of Fame and nobody would say anything about it. At least I would. At least
MVP,
I wouldn't.
Super Bowl MVP, best statistical season of all time, done. All right,
yep.
Moving on, number 2. That's that.
Fantastic curly hair as well, and getting married soon too. Good.
Ketchup on steak. I'm with it all.
Good for that guy. Currently in his young career, 12,227 yards, 107 touchdowns to only 20 interceptions. He is first in the league currently right now with passing yards, 3,815, 31 touchdowns, which is third, and then 2 interceptions, which is at the top. I mean, that dude is ridiculous. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll has 140 wins all time against 94 losses. Dude has been everywhere and bounced back from the NFL to college and vice versa, but obviously been around forever. He's like 100 years old, but he looks like he's in his late 50s. Like, I don't know. The dude is ridiculous, drinking from the fountain of youth. For sure. And then, of course, Russell Wilson was in the MVP category. I don't know if you'd be in the MVP conversation for me anymore with Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers kind of doing their thing. But either way, I mean, he's in the conversation. He's been, consistently solid. He has 33,213 career passing yards, 259 touchdowns, 79 interceptions. Currently is third in yards this year, and then second in touchdowns when comparing him to other quarterbacks. Obviously, Drew Brees, if we're moving on now to Sean Payton and Drew Brees, got banged up, had that minor injury of cracking some ribs and, having one shoot through your lung. So minor kind of like day to day type of stuff for sure. But I mean, the dude has 79,612 passing yards all time, 565 touchdowns, 240 interceptions. He's been around forever, but he's still.
Oh, those numbers are baffling.
Yeah, he's still doing his thing in the league right now. Obviously, when he comes back, we'll kind of see how the Saints kind of move forward, as they're sort of at the top of the NFC, or at least a lot of folks' favorites, or at least in that discussion. So we'll see if he's able to kind of come back and keep that ship going the way that it is right now. Have you heard of Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger?
Yeah, in passing, yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't think I said so. Sean Payton's win-loss totals forever: 140 wins, 84 losses. For Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, So for Mike Tomlin, 143 wins, 75 losses, and one tie. Yeah, buddy.
I believe it's now 143, 76 and 1, unless you adjusted that.
I think I did adjust. I don't remember if I adjusted this one. I did go through and update this today. It might be 76 losses, but what has not
almost a 2-to-1 discrepancy, which is about as good as you can ask for a head ball coach. Then, of course, Big Ben is, in my view, top 10 all time. He has all the statistical numbers to back that. He has the wins. He has the credentials, Super Bowl rings. You know what? Fuck you. It's not my opinion. Big Ben's top 10 all time. Don't at me.
It is tough to argue. I saw that he what was it, 7th all time or 6th now all time in total yards that came this year. Was it total yards? Was it touchdown? It was something. He had a milestone this year that
I believe 6 total yards sounds right. Now it's like moving targets, like Freeze, Brady, and possibly even Rodgers. Does Rodgers have more yards than him or not yet?
But either way, the dude is in the conversation for one of the best to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
In the NFL for like ever. This year, Big Ben, 2,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The touchdowns and interceptions are all like top half, 7th in touchdowns, tied for 10th in interceptions. The passing yards is 17th, so right around in the middle of the pack. But that record of now 11-1, right? He's getting his team where it needs to be. So that would be a reason that he would be at my number 4, or at least top 4, like I mentioned. Those
2C, right?
Yeah, two is kind of interchangeable there. For his career, 59,345 yards, 388 touchdowns, 197 interceptions. Okay, so we got through the top 4, right? Well, for me, it's spotty, but we got through 4 of them. So the 5th one is a little bit tougher to kind of talk about, and there's a lot of different ways that you could sort of argue it. So for me, I had in that 4th spot, or number 3 on my fake top 5 list, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur. LaFleur, so much fun to say. Not necessarily for the latter guy, but more for the prior guy. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is just a stud. He's another one that's one of the better ones to do it forever. Right now, let's see, he's 5th in the league with yards, 3,395 yards. 1st in the league in touchdowns with 36. Actually, just hit career touchdown 400 on Sunday. I don't know if you were watching that game. I certainly
I saw that. Yep.
Watching that game. Devontae Adams is really fucking good too. But anywho, 4 interceptions this year as well, which is tied for 3rd. He does it a little bit for me to where, I mean, Matt LaFleur might be a fine head coach. It's year 2, but
22-7 is
just solid win-loss. Yeah, solid win-loss ratio. How much of that is him, or how much of that is having one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best receivers in the league. Like they're pretty well off. Green Bay.
It's hard to argue looking at the list of candidates you put together. I'm a little partial to, and you don't like just to rattle off some of the other options quick. There's John Gruden and Derek Carr, uh, Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, Mike Vrabel, Ryan Tannehill, Bill Belichick and Cam. Obviously, that's almost entirely on Belichick. Cam's been putrid this year. They're remaining competitive, but that's on the strength of Belichick. It's
Yeah,
hard to
that one was
argue
like
for any
the
of them.
polar opposite from the Rogers LaFleur thing. That was like the
Yes.
polar opposite of Rogers LaFleur, like the dynamic there. But yeah, go ahead.
It's hard to argue for any of those over Rogers, LaFleur. Another candidate I would say would be John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson,
Hmm.
being that he's an MVP and Harbaugh has a strong track record of success. But I tend to favor you with Aaron Rodgers and Mr. LaFleur in the 5 spot.
Yep. So that is that's what I had as well. And then this is why I kind of extended it out to that top 8, because so if we're doing the 2A, 2B, 2C thing with Wilson, Carroll, Breeze, Peyton, and Tomlin, Roethlisberger, and then Rodgers and LaFleur at number 3, I had Ryan Tannehill and Mike Vrabel at number 4. And I also and then I have a 5 and a 5A as well. Just I figured I already fucked it up. Like, why not just kind of write it out?
I
I
mean,
had hmm,
if I could preach about one like Tannehill, I think people mistakenly label him a game manager just because they tend to run the ball so often with the fucking horse and Derrick Henry. But Tannehill can uncork a pretty deep ball, and he's not afraid to throw to AJ Brown, Corey Davis downfield. Like he for I guess it's the last 2 years that he's been in Tennessee, he's been at least an upper half of the league quarterback, top 16.
hmm. Yeah, and it's really easy to kind of remember him as the Miami Dolphins quarterback, and then there was the injury and all that stuff. But I mean, yeah, he has sort of had that resurgence, and while his numbers might not jump out at you, they're not bad. He has 2,997 yards this year, which is 14th, so kind of like that middle of the pack that you were talking about. But 28 touchdowns, which is 4th in the NFL, and then 11 interceptions isn't great, right? But their offense again runs through Derrick Henry. So Ryan Tannehill might be a game manager, but that's literally what they need in Tennessee. So for what he's being asked to do and having to go out and execute his job, he's done it really, really well.
Yeah.
I also think that Mike Vrabel is a really good coach. I know that they're coming off a loss this week against the Browns, where they did end up coming back, which didn't seem possible at all for whatever reason in Baltimore. That was the only game that we got on TV.
That
So
was
that's
on
what
here too, yeah.
that's what I got to watch. But Mike Vrabel, 25 and 19 as a head coach, not bad. Obviously, still young at it, but he's somebody that it looks like his players play for him. He's somebody that seems like it would be a lot of fun to play on his team.
I like Vrabel. He reminds me of Mike Tomlin in a way. I think they have similar coaching styles. I think his players get gassed up to play for him. That said, I keep settling back on Rodgers and LaFleur in spite of how I try to talk myself into another duo here.
Oh yeah, no. Rodgers and LaFleur is at number 5, and I think that this is just like the honorable mention part of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tannehill and Vrabel I had right behind them. In the same breath, I think Brady and Bruce Arians. You talk about a quarterback who's might be the best to do it ever. I know if you're having the conversation, it's a LeBron Jordan conversation type of thing, at least at this point.
To me, it's just I mean, we could wax poetic about Brady's stats. Everybody should know by now. Tom Brady has the most everything. You don't have to look it up. To me, it's just too short-lived a duo to like. If we're talking about coach quarterback duos. No, like this year they're 7-5. Brady's been underwhelming. Not bad, but 28 passing touchdowns, very good. 11 picks is un-Brady like. He usually throws single-digit interceptions in a season. Bruce Arians
could that be possibly? Oh, sorry, man. Could the interception thing be because he's in a new system with new people, where he's been in New England forever kind of, developed that chemistry with the receivers that he was throwing to? Could it be that now he's in a new system? It was a weird offseason, even though he was going down there and throwing in the middle of COVID or whatever it was. But
see, I would worry more because his turnover numbers I know have increased lately. Like, it almost seems at 43 he might finally be starting to slow down. And I know people have been saying that for years and years, but just
it had to happen at some point, right?
if you
It
look,
did have to happen.
yeah, he's got 7 picks in his last 4 games. That's very un-Brady like. It's probably very few stretches like that in his career. And even before that, there's a 0 in the or no, actually before that he was doing quite well taking care of the ball. It's only very recently that it's become an issue. And I wonder if, him and Bruce Arians have seemed to butt heads in the media a time or two even. It's, as far as duos go, they haven't shown anything, and I don't expect them to.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think also with the change in systems, you go from the Patriots, where I don't want to call it like a dink and dunk offense, but there is a lot of underneath stuff. It's a lot of shorter passes, whereas Bruce Arians is notorious for wanting to push the ball down the field. So that could also have something to do. And, you pair that with a decline because, Father Time is undefeated. Like, eventually your body is going to break down a little bit. So that could have something to do with it. It was just an interesting, again, you get one of the best quarterbacks ever. I respect Bruce Arians as a coach. So that was in my honorable mention category. And then John Gruden and Derek Carr as well. The Raiders have been solid this year. The numbers won't really jump out at you. Derek Carr's been taking care of the ball really well this year. He only has 5 interceptions. That's tied 5th in the league. He has 22 touchdowns, which is tied for 10th in the league. And then 3,027 yards. It's 13th. It's middle of the pack, but I mean, they're winning games, right?
Yep.
They're winning games. They had that one against the Chiefs as well that kind of opened everybody's eyes and was like, oh shit, the Raiders are legit.
And Gruden, as you have here, is over 500 in his career, 113 wins, 107 losses. Obviously, had tons of success in Tampa Bay in the early 2000s. Yeah, it's a worthy honorable mention. I think Derek Carr kind of gets glossed over. He's had a very strong statistical career. I think there's still potential there, but again, that's another one that they just haven't together haven't done enough to sell me as anything more than fringe top 10, like rounding out the top 10, which isn't a bad spot to be in.
No, it's certainly not a slight at them, and you got to think if they kind of continue at the pace like they've been improving over the last couple of years. So if they kind of continue that pace, and in a couple of years, who knows, they might be in that top 5 conversation. You figure that Drew Brees has to retire at some point. Ben Roethlisberger is probably going to retire at some point. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings if you weren't thinking that was going to happen, but it's going to come at some juncture.
Yeah, everybody dies. I know.
That's yep. So that could kind of be the next sort of upper tier if he's able to get in there. So I mean, there were some really good quarterbacks that I didn't even put on here. Same kind of breath with being good in the future. I think that Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray in a couple years could be in that top 5 conversation. You mentioned Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson might be able to be in that conversation. Deshaun Watson, and if they ever get somebody who's not Bill O'Brien, maybe might be in that conversation as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned those 3. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. I see here we wanted to discuss them.
Oh, wow. What a segue. God, we are good at this.
Holy cow.
Yep. Rate, subscribe, like, share, whatever else normal podcast speak. So yeah,
Moonlight on OnlyFans. Watch that too.
That's right. God almighty. I couldn't imagine why you would want to. But hey, everybody's got their thing. If we are it, I feel bad for you. But oh God. Well, there goes any sort of credibility that we had. Excellent. So to kind of finish us up here, we're gonna play a game. It's called Start One, Sit One, Bench One. Very similar to that game that you used to play with your friends, where you would choose to marry someone, have consensual relations with one, and then to murder one in cold blood is the game that we all played as children. All right, so let's start with quarterback.
I would bang
here.
Kyler Murray. He's kind of cute.
That's fair. Wow. All right, nipple and Kyler Murray. Okay, maybe this isn't the one that we put out. Maybe we wait until the next one and see if that one's better. Okay, so for our start one, sit one, bench one, we have Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson. Now, I'll rattle off the stats really quick, and then we can kind of get into it. Just as sort of a note, Lamar Jackson is playing right now with this Tuesday night football, or the Sunday night football that's moonlighting as a Tuesday night football, or Thursday. I can't even keep track of it, but the stats are not up to date on Lamar Jackson. We can update these later on after he's done here playing the Cowboys in Baltimore. But Lamar Jackson currently on the year, 1,948 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Kyler Murray at 2,987 yards, 22 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And then Deshaun Watson, 3,542 yards, 24 interceptions to only 6 picks. So let's start with you, my friend. I will ask you, start one, sit one, bench one. Where you at?
I'm marrying Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry. I'm starting Deshaun Watson. I'll hitch my wagon to him. He's got the longest track record of success. He doesn't have the MVP award that Lamar Jackson has, but his statistical credentials, production are just as good, if not better. For his career, 95 touchdowns, 35 picks. A thing that used to be a knock on dual threat quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson was they couldn't take care of the ball or pass the ball like that. Deshaun Watson is marvelous. His completion percentage is 67%. Every year he's crisp, he's accurate. He lost DeAndre Hopkins this year, and he's trended towards a statistical year passing the ball almost across the board. He'll top his best yards. Right now he's averaging almost 9 yards a throw. He should, if he maintains that, it's a career best. He's 3 passing scores from a career best with 4 to play? Yeah. And then another 1,500 yards and 17 scores on the ground. Deshaun Watson, multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple times has qualified for the playoffs. So too has Lamar Jackson, but doesn't impress me as much as a passer. I think even in spite of the MVP, Lamar Jackson feels more like a flash in the pan. Kyler Murray, I'd say the jury. I'm not going to say the jury's out. I would say Kyler Murray has solidified himself as a strong starting quarterback. He would probably be the guy on my bench. I think I'm cutting Lamar Jackson. I think they both had as many highlights. Kyler Murray, much like Deshaun Watson, I think is a better pure thrower of the football. I think he'll have a more sustained run of success than will Lamar Jackson. I'm cutting him.
Yep. So let me go back. So I need to correct myself. I actually had a typo on here on this document, and I was reading it as start one, sit one, bench one. Sitting and benching are the same thing. That's an error on my part. So the game is actually start one, sit one, cut one. Okay, but again, same sort of idea. So you mentioned Deshaun Watson, being able to take care of the ball. Obviously, the 6 interceptions this year kind of paints that picture towards it. Losing Nuke Hopkins, like one of the best receivers in the league, and having an incompetent coach GM for a while before they let Bill O'Brien go, certainly was stuff that Deshaun Watson had to overcome. If you remember last year, I mean, Deshaun Watson couldn't get on a plane because he was so banged up because his offensive line was so bad. Oh, yeah. Right? He wasn't able to get on a plane. He had to take a van to his games.
Yeah, we've yet to even make mention of that. He's been thriving behind a bad O-line for a number of years. The running game behind him has often been underwhelming. I think their backs have been like Carlos Hyde and Lamar Miller.
Yep, and they currently have both of the D Johnsons that'll mess you up when you're trying to look at your fantasy lineup, because I have them both in one of my leagues with David and Duke.
Yeah,
for sure. Yep. And now Deshaun Watson faces another uphill battle because some culprit put steroids in the water in Houston, and now half the people are suspended for the remainder of the season, and Will Fuller probably most notably out for the rest of this season and one game next season. So Deshaun Watson has certainly been battling and or been fighting an uphill battle, so to speak.
It's almost what you wish you'd seen out of Carson Wentz to this point. Not maybe the same statistical production, but Deshaun Watson, continues to thrive in spite of being surrounded by mediocrity. I think that's what's most impressive about him. And like I said, I think that's probably, I'm sorry to bring up sore spots, but probably what you've been hoping and failing to find in Wentz.
And that was always kind of the comparison, right? At least for the last couple of years in the media, was Deshaun Watson versus Carson Wentz. Which right now, I mean, it's not even close. It's not a conversation anymore. It was a conversation. It's not anymore. And you bring up a great point about Deshaun Watson being able to thrive in spite of what he has around him, not being placed in like an advantageous situation where he's able to kind of thrive because of the pieces that are around him, which, yeah, again, Carson Wentz did not. Deshaun Watson would also be my start if we're talking about these three. I went back and forth between Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. This one's a little bit tougher. I don't necessarily know if it's as cut and dry. I think that they both do things that are similar. And what I think is that if the Ravens continued on sort of like the offensive path that they were on last year, where they lived and died by the run and the misdirection, and there was spots of read option, they have a little bit of zone scheme, they have a little bit of gap scheme, they're using motions to scheme people open and kind of take what the defense gives you and sort of dictate what the defense can do. I think if they continued that, instead of, it almost looks like the Ravens were trying to make Lamar sit in the pocket and throw it just in case they had to do that later on. And they kind of forgot that you still got to win football games now. Not that their record is horrendous or anything. They're currently at 6-5, but I think if they kept on that same path, Lamar Jackson would be a clear-cut favorite over Kyler Murray if we're talking about this discussion.
The Cowboys are giving them a whale of a game right now. It's still a one-possession game here. They could well fall to 6-6 before the night's over. Not that Arizona's faring much better. I think they're 6-5, or they might even be 6-6 yet.
Right.
Maybe Murray's just newer. Like, he was in the MVP discussion this year. Maybe he's more flashy to me. Maybe it's because I've watched Lamar Jackson struggle and turn the ball over numerous times against the Steelers. I'm just not overwhelmingly impressed by him.
No, I agree, and he's certainly, it looks like he's not the same player as last year, but like I mentioned before, that could have something to do with scheme as well. And then, of course, there's been some injuries on that offense also, and then there was the COVID just kind of ravaged through their roster.
Jackson or Kyler Murray?
God, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to have the same start him, sit him, cut him, but I am. I'm gonna put Kyler Murray on my bench. I think that in a couple years, I think that he will have won an MVP. I think that he'll be pushing for a Super Bowl, trying to get a team to a Super Bowl. I think that his ceiling is super, super high. So yeah, ours are going to be the same. I would take Deshaun. I would start Deshaun Watson. I would sit Kyler Murray, and I would begrudgingly cut Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Right. And now, of course, since I said that, Lamar is going to throw for like 14 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of this game, just because that's how it goes, at least when I play fantasy. So I'm just assuming that it's going to kind of go the same way here when we're talking about it. So we also have a start one, sit one, cut one for wide receivers. I had a different trio in here to start, but then I wanted to make it a little bit fair. So none of these guys are going to be in that like top 5, top 10 conversation. They're not going to be. They're not clear cut. Like we're not talking Devontae Adams. We're not talking about DK Metcalf. Like we're moving into maybe another tier, at least that might not be as clear cut. So we have Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, and Calvin Ridley. Okay, Allen Robinson, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley. All right. You want to take a shot at the start one, sit one, cut one? I know you went first last time. If you want me to go.
Yeah. All very comparable numbers. A-Rob, 77 catches, 904 yards, 5 scores. Terry, 71, 977, and 3. And then Calvin Ridley, 59, 905, and 7. I believe that's with a game or two missed. I This jumped out at me, and I guess maybe much like with Deshaun Watson, maybe I want the proven track record of success because for me, I'm starting Allen Robinson. I think, and again, I have a soft spot for him being a Penn State guy, but I was thinking about it. Allen Robinson, much like Deshaun Watson, has thrived with mediocrity at quarterbacks forever. Back to Christian fucking Hackenberg, and it never got better. Hackenberg. No, it never ever got better. It was Blake Bortles followed by Mitch Trubisky. Now he's got Nick Foles. And all he does is produce. I almost feel like if he was ever paired with a legitimate franchise quarterback, he could produce on the same par with the true number ones in the league. Watching A-Rob, he's a crispy route runner. He catches everything. He can high point the ball like no other. He's no slouch going down the field, like as far as vertical speed goes. For me, he's
all right. So hang on, let me put a hypothetical on you here, just while we're on Allen Robinson. If you replace Devontae Adams with Allen Robinson on the Green Bay Packers, does Allen Robinson have the same numbers as Devontae Adams has?
Yes, he would score double-digit touchdowns. He scored 14 touchdowns in 1 year with Blake Bortles as his quarterback. Mm-hmm. Not to discredit Devontae Adams. I think that's more a testament to how good Allen Robinson is, in my view.
And how good Aaron Rodgers is, obviously, and making other people around him better. Yeah.
Yeah, and then kind of the same argument I would apply to Terry McLaurin as well. Smaller sample size, but he's been nothing but productive. Him and Calvin Ridley, two young guys, two guys who've both been very good. Calvin Ridley, very good red zone player. I think he, of course, benefits from having Julio Jones on the other side. I think, but again, he is an athletic marvel in his own right, and he has proven in games without Julio that he can produce like a number one. Mm-hmm. So that's, I don't know. It's tough between those two. I think I think I'm gonna bench Calvin Ridley. I talked myself into it. I was leaning Scary Terry, but the more I started talking, the more Calvin Ridley became appealing. We know he's an Alabama stud, all the credentials, all the physical ability you want in a number one receiver. That's what he's being groomed to be. And his production is only trending upwards. So too is McLaurin, but God, I hate this. I'm sticking with it. I'm cutting Terry McLaurin, and I don't have a strong reason against him just so much as I like the other two better. McLaurin is going to be a 1,400 yard guy this year too. You can't go wrong anyway.
Yep. No, that's why I kind of switched it up, because I had a couple other receivers in here, and I thought it was maybe a little bit too easy, trying to make us think a little bit. You painted the picture of Allen Robinson perfectly, and I know that last week when we were talking about our top 10 receivers and that list, Allen Robinson was somebody who, deserved at least mention, even if he wasn't on the list. Certainly deserved mention. And again, with being without the quarterback and, the abysmal quarterback play that he's had and had to endure, and still kind of putting up the numbers that he's put up, you got to kind of pay attention to it. Terry McLaurin, it wasn't to be a sore subject. I didn't think he had a great game.
No, they actually more or less shut him down. They did not shut down J.D. McKissick or Logan Thomas, but they sure did keep Scary Terry in check.
Yeah, they stopped number 17, which, I mean, I guess you got to kind of pick your poison. But Calvin Ridley as well is somebody who's coming on. And you're right, with Julio Jones, it is a lot easier because you take away the possibility of a double team. Everybody in the world is going to double team Julio Jones before they double team Calvin Ridley, even though that might change at some point. But I mean, he certainly looked good this year with 59 receptions, 905 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Look, all three of them have over 900 yards, right?
With 4 games to go.
With 4 games to go, but Calvin Ridley only has 59 receptions. Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin have over 70. Terry McLaurin with 71, Allen Robinson with 77. This one is tough for me as well, because Terry McLaurin has I mean, he's been coming on. The dude is a stud. And I think that his touchdowns, and I don't know, I haven't watched every game that the football team has played this year. I know that might be shocking to you, but I think that the 3 touchdowns also has something to do with them having a solid run game, and being able to, if you're going to get fairly close, Antonio Gibson has been like killing it.
Yes.
Uh, him
Yeah.
getting hurt yesterday early, but then McKissick kind of picking up the slack there is tough. I am totally trying to just talk so that I don't have to actually make a decision. This one is really, really tough. We were the same last time. We can't be the same this time. I'm going to start Calvin Ridley. He has 12 less receptions than Terry McLaurin, 18 less receptions than Allen Robinson, but still over 900 yards. He's found the end zone 7 times. He's an up and comer. I mean, the dude's going to be a stud so long as he stays healthy. I'm going to start Calvin Ridley. I don't think coming into this I was going to start Calvin Ridley, but since we got to shake it up a little bit. I'm going to start Calvin Ridley. I am going to put Allen Robinson on the bench, and I am going to cut Terry McLaurin reluctantly and use his 3 touchdowns as my reason, even though, like I mentioned before, I don't really think that is a product of what he's capable of. I think
if he sees this, he's going to blow up and tweet about us.
Absolutely, and by all means, get in our mentions. Yeah, get in our mentions, Terry. We understand. It's nothing personal. It's just business. Dog eat dog world, buddy. We're not mad at you. But find the end zone a little bit more. That's all we're saying. That's it. Okay, so those were the serious start one, sit one, cut ones, and then we got 2 kind of fun ones here.
Yeah, wind me down. Let's talk some spuds, bud.
Fucking A, right. So let's talk about our potato preparation. Like what kind of potato, how it's prepared, right, would get your start, sit, or your cut. So we have French fries, tater tots, and then the last one I put in because I feel like they're the same. It's just you're not smushing one. Baked potatoes or mashed potatoes. You could choose either one if you're gonna put them in there for your potato preparation, but if you had to start one, sit one, cut one, what do you start and what do you sit and what do you cut?
Gonna draw a lot of controversy.
Oh boy.
I'm cutting fries.
Wow. Go on. Tell.
I'm starting tater tots. They're the superior snack. They're comparable, but tater tots are the texture's heavenly. They're equally versatile. You could top either with chili, cheese, gravy, sour cream, bacon, more cheese, ground beef, a little more cheese, what have you.
Crab dip.
Oh yeah,
Maryland. Well, one of we are in Maryland.
I'm in shitty Wilkes-Barre. But that should not detract from the fact that tater tots are number 1. And because of their similarity to fries, I'm cutting fries. It's no disrespect to fries, but if I only had to have one of the 2, it's tater tots. And then, so this is either or, mashed or baked?
I would say so, yes.
Well, so I'm favoring mashed.
Fries. Yeah, you got to pick one.
All right. Then I'm favoring mashed potatoes because much like a baked potato, you can load a mashed potato and it's delightful to do so, and there's no cumbersome skin. So I flipped the script here and made this 2 one-on-one battles in which mashed potatoes and tater tots emerged victorious.
Interesting. Yeah. So you threw me for a loop when you cut the fries, although I do see the idea with the tater tots and the fries, being equally as versatile, like you said. And I mean, tater tots are just delightful. They were going to be my start as well, but since you chose them, I'm going to go a different route. We're talking about fucking potatoes here. Like it's okay. There's not a lot of argument. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go ahead and start mashed potatoes. And the reason that you kind of talked about with being able to load it up with, you got the bacon and the cheese and the sour cream, the green onions are just, oh man, it's really good. But also, so think about like traditional holiday food. Like I feel like I'm a weird person because I don't necessarily like Thanksgiving food. I'm not a huge fan. So I am not a fan of turkey. My family does have ham from time to time, but something that makes turkey infinitely better is when you can mix it with mashed potatoes and gravy. think about the other kind of sides that you have with your Thanksgiving. You have your vegetable. You put some of those in your mashed potatoes. You take a
It's a
spoonful.
food enhancer.
It's almost like a condiment in this and a side simultaneously.
Respect. All right, you talk me. I'm not changing anything, but I respect your selection.
Realistically, though, if I am out and it's an option, tater tots are usually getting the nod.
Cheese,
Or fries.
chili bacon, chili cheese. Yeah.
Any kind of them.
So then, you're not cutting fries as well, are you?
God, no, because you did. Even though I would, no, I will take one for the team, and I'll keep punk ass fries on the bench. Whatever. No, and I mean, I never turn down a fry, particularly with cheese. We are a pro cheese podcast as well, but that name didn't seem like it would go along with what we were actually going to talk about most of the time. So that's why we chose the We Like Football name.
We do like
But
cheese as well.
so I will, yeah, I'll start mashed potatoes. I will bench tater tot, or excuse me, I will bench fries. I will be very, very sad to watch tater tots go. Thank God this isn't real and I can just go. Now, I think I actually have tater tots in my freezer. I'm not saying I'm gonna, but I'm not saying I'm not. We'll see how the night plays out.
I will. I've committed to it now. Thank you.
We'll see. All right. And then just in the spirit to kind of wrap us up, Christmas movies here. We'll start one, sit one, and we will cut one. For me, I'll go first with this one. So right now on the gamut, we have Elf with Will Ferrell that came out in 2003. We have How the Grinch Stole Christmas that came out in 2000 with Jim Carrey, and then The Santa Claus with Tim Allen, an absolute classic. The order that I read them in is the order that I would have them in. I would start Elf. It's probably one of the most quotable movies ever. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I think, edges out the Santa Claus for me just because Jim Carrey is freaking nuts and he like plays the perfect Grinch. Like I don't know who else you would get that would be a better Grinch. The dog's pretty cool as well. There's funny parts in that movie. And then Santa Claus. I mean, Tim Allen is solid. Don't get me wrong. If it's on TV, I won't choose to watch it. But if my wife puts it on, I'll watch it, and it'll make me chuckle a little bit here and there. But that would be my start. I would start Elf. I would sit How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I would cut the Santa Claus.
I respect your answers. They're well reasoned. I can't strongly argue with them. I could order these three movies in a selection of my choosing, but I'm cutting them all and I'm watching Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger over and over.
Ooh. What is the name of the action figure that he's trying to?
Turbo Man.
That's right, Turbo Man. Oh, buddy, yeah, that is a good one. That is a good. Around this, I don't know if it was the same time, but it might have been. What is it? I'll Be Home for Christmas. Is that the movie with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Jessica Biel?
Yeah, I remember that one too.
It's a good one also. That's fair. Okay. All right. So that do you have any other ones that you would replace on this list? I just thought of three that I thought were common.
They're all strong selections. I hate A Christmas Story. I never want to watch it again as long as I live.
Reach.
Other than that, I like bloody Christmas movies. Silent Night, Deadly Night's a lot of fun. I'm a weird guy. I don't know what to tell
you. That's fair. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Let's go get some tater tots.
I've never seen it. Okay, so that should probably just wrap us up for today. You got anything else?
Thanks for tuning in, Mom. We like football.
Yep. So for Andy, I'm Hayden. Thank you so much. We like football. Go team.
Sure do, pal.